Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's late night happy hour. Brian Kamenetsky and Andy Kamenetsky joined, very excited by the hosts of the Spinsters podcast. It's brand new and it's very, very fun, and we've been enjoying listening to it. Jordan Ligons and Haley O'Shaughnessy, thanks so much for coming on, guys. We appreciate it.
How are you?
No, thanks for having us.
Doing well, doing well. Congrats on the new show. It's already getting a lot of buzz and a lot of attention.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you.
Weird, but thank you.
We were just talking about that. It's kind of weird, but we are so appreciative of everyone who's subscribed and listened and given us feedback and left voicemails that are so fun. And we just keep listening to them and have, demanded that Jordan's Aunt Shirlene comes back on, which is like something that we were hoping got on anyway.
It was great.
Where does she live? Where is she from?
She's originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma, but she lives in the Bay, California.
How did she end up a Celtics
Thank
fan?
you, Andy. That was my question.
Yes, so it's actually a really funny story, and I know she's probably going to tell it one show, but from Tulsa, she moved to San Diego. And so she was a Lakers fan for the longest time. And she knows that me and my dad are both Laker fans, so she loves to tell this story. But during those years when the Lakers and Celtics were going back and forth, she was tired of losing as a Lakers fan. So she said, I don't know exactly what year it was, but it was a Lakers-Celtics championship game. And she said, if the Lakers lose this game, I'm going to be a Celtics fan. And that's how she became a Celtics fan.
I know you're not supposed to do that. Like, you're really not supposed to do it that way. But I kind of respect that she did it that way. It's like, you know what? She sees herself as a winner, I'm sure, and wants to be associated with that.
It's
and to be fair, she stuck with the Celtics through some of their downs too. So it's not like she's a fair weather fan. She's you know what? I'm switching, and then she stuck with it.
Look, it's one thing to bandwagon jump, but I would say, like, if you're gonna do it, like, truly go to the dark side. And this was real. I mean, this was like some Darth Vader shit.
I know.
Jumping from like the Lakers to the Celtics. If you're going to abandon ship, I actually respect going that extreme. Like that. That's kind of admirable in its own right.
I love it. I know. So even when she was on the podcast and she said she was a fan since the 80s, my dad was trying to fact check her. And she was like, I feel like it was way before that, but she's been watching basketball forever, but became a Celtics fan in the 80s. So it's a great story.
Yeah, an odd one, but a great one. Now all I can think of is, like, how different Star Wars would have been if Luke Skywalker, as they were leaving, was like, "No, I'm just going to stay on the Death Star. We're cool. I'm good. Just stay right here." So you guys, you really, truly just launched. And Haley, you mentioned the voicemail thing.
Mm-hmm.
How nobody leaves voicemails anymore. Have you found it all like people struggle with that? Because, I mean, like, especially when they know it might be played for people to hear.
No, I think that's, part of the cool aspect of it is that we're very much listening. We're very much engaging, and we want to hear what people say. And also, going along with the title of the show, our whole thing was like Spinsters. It's definitely a play on word, but we also are embracing the fact that, like, our dream is to just be on a porch together one day and talk about the game that just happened. So the voicemails is like, we're taking it back all the way. Might as well stay true to the title.
When was the last time you left anybody a voicemail?
I love voicemails. I leave voicemails all the time, and I love receiving them. People do it on purpose for me.
Yeah, we voice notes each other all the time, which I don't think is that different. But also my mom leaves me voicemails all the time, and it's always the same thing. And, like, she's on Eastern time, so I'm sure she's not going to see this, but it's my favorite thing ever, because it's always like, "Hey, Haley, it's Mom. Call me back. Okay, love you." And it's like, it's the same thing every time. I've never deleted a single one. I actually, like, bought more storage just to keep them. But yeah, they're my favorite thing. So I don't leave them very often because I'd just rather text so people know who it is. Because usually I feel like if it's a voicemail, it's somebody who I'm reaching out to. But I do love the idea of them very much. And the ones we've gotten are so fun.
We can't we cannot get our mom to learn how to text, like, because we keep trying to explain to her, like, this would make it so much easier to get hold of us, because there are times where she calls either one, and she'll always call one of us, and then if the one can't pick up, she immediately calls the other. So there'll be times like where we're working on something and my phone will ring and I'll just look over and I'm like, she's about to call you. And within a minute, she's calling Brian. But we've tried to explain to her, like, you'll actually be able to get your answer taken care of quicker if you would just text us. And she won't do it. Like, she just refuses to learn how to do it. She's basically frightened she's going to break the phone. Like, I'm not even joking.
You got to do what works for you.
Well, unfortunately,
I'll tell you what, if she leaves voicemails, we have a number for her to call.
Oh, she'll do that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to actually follow up with you guys on that, because our favorite voicemails have been from women who have, are over 40, it sounds like, which
she's probably going to. She's
Our
probably
mother
going
is
to
over 40. Yes.
Yes, she is.
Just wanted to be on the same.
She is a woman of a certain age.
Just wanted to be polite.
She's probably going to call.
Doesn't look a day over that.
She's probably going to call, seeing if, like, either one of you know where we are, or like if you can leave a message for us.
That'll be the best.
She'd be very frightened you would use it.
Yeah.
Oh, we would. True. That's part of the game. But I do think a lot of people are down with that, and certain takes need to be heard, and maybe you don't get the opportunity.
This is totally just 100% a thing with me. Like, there was a period where texting really wasn't a big thing. So you actually called people and left people voicemails, like really back in the day, like people had answering machines. And then it became, there was like a weird bridge time between texting being common and voicemails being thing. Like, then nobody was leaving voicemails. I am so bad at voicemails. I have always been bad at voicemails. That period of time where you couldn't text someone and needed to leave messages was right when I first got to LA and I was still trying to date. And that was the most horrifying part ever, was leaving the voicemail for the person that you didn't know that well, but I have a...
What does bad at voicemails mean? What does that...
Have you seen
went
Swingers?
On and on forever?
You know that scene in Swingers?
No, I don't think. I'm not a big movie person.
Okay, well, there's a great scene in Swingers where it's Favreau, right, Andy? Where he's leaving
it's Jon Favreau.
Yeah, Jon Favreau is leaving a voicemail for the girl that he met at the bar, and it leaves a voicemail, then it like dings and he doesn't finish it, and he keeps leaving, and it ends up being this incredibly long, horrifying experience that ultimately involves him like basically breaking up with her at the end of like the last of 57 voicemails that I was just awkward.
Oh, no.
I couldn't do it.
And he had met her like 3 hours, 2 hours before that. Like, and he goes through this whole string and finally is like, look, it's not you, it's me. Like, I'm just coming off a and finally she just picks up and says, don't ever call me again. Like, oh, you're home.
Yeah. The trick is to press pound if you're not satisfied with your voicemail.
Can you still do that though?
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't. Hey, you learn something every day. I had no idea.
You can, but then the problem is it starts turning into like a writing exercise where you're basically self-editing and you start becoming really, really critical. Like, it'll be like 3 or 4 minutes and it's like, dude, just leave the damn message. Like, it's not that important. But you start...
Less is more.
Yeah, you just start self-editing, self-criticize. It's horrible. But so you guys now, like, for people who have not heard the show yet, how would you describe this particular basketball show and like the vibe of it, what you guys want the listeners to be taken away?
Well, we're trying to do a bunch of different things that basically are all rooted in things that Jordan and I have always been interested in. And I guess the bet is that hoping that other people are interested in them as well. Sometimes we just need to talk about what we saw over the weekend because we're fascinated. Sometimes we have things that we've been working on and have reported ourselves. And then sometimes we have contributors who are coming on the show and telling us stories. So as we love storytelling. That's probably one of the things that we identified at the beginning of creating this podcast, is that we really wanted to try to do that in a new way for basketball podcasts. And we also just love hanging out and talking to each other. And a big thing was like, what if we just share what we were texting about all weekend? Jordan, do you have anything to add? I hope I didn't mess that up. We've like been through this, like, okay, let's explain what the podcast is. And every time it's been like a different answer from me, but hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, that was exactly right. I was going to say, the best compliment is that you feel like you're in a room with us, just a fly on the wall as we're just having a conversation. But also with the narrative ones, we really want to bring that mix where we can have a, audio magazine type vibe that we're trying to come off. So some of our curiosities, just being able to dive deeper into those is so fun, and putting that to a podcast is the best. So we just hope that comes across and that you have fun with us through the whole time. And yeah, it's a good time. Trust us.
Yeah, it absolutely. And again, people should be subscribing to Spinsters everywhere podcasts are available. So you guys, Jordan, you are a big Laker fan, as we established before. And Haley, you are something of a LeBron stan, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I love LeBron. But there's always teams I attach to every year. There's players I attach to over the years as well. So, but he's always been my favorite. So when people ask, instead of giving that long spiel I just did, I usually just say LeBron.
I mean, you're allowed to like more than one. Like you're not cheating on
get one. But so, I was talking about this with Andy. We were kind of texting back and forth about this. Like LeBron, the LeBron experience in LA has been fantastic, and the appreciation you get from being able to watch him every day. But I no longer like watching him have to carry teams. It's not now. It's fun in the playoffs, not now. So like Jordan, when you're watching this, the Lakers beat Indiana tonight, it's a good win, but like they have to grind for every single bucket. It's really kind of painful to watch. You saw what was going on before the All-Star break. It was probably like 38 minutes a night. Is that fun? Are you enjoying that?
It's not. That was a little bit of a spoiler alert, because I don't know if you can hear my dad, but he's still watching the game because we paused it. So he's like behind. So he's going to be very happy that we win this game, because it was horrible to watch. It was like grinding teeth to score the basketball. Why is it so hard for us to make points? And I was the same way. If you take LeBron off the floor to rest him, we would have 5 points a night. Like we literally cannot score without AD or LeBron on the floor at any point in time. So as much as I don't want him to play, high minutes, we need to save his body for the playoffs. I'm like, okay, we have to at least make it to the playoffs. So please stay on the floor so that people can at least get a shot. Fingers crossed. I don't know. It's painful.
I feel like with most teams, you can say, okay, let's pull back a little bit for the sake of having to have a long playoff run. Let's think ahead. But with the Lakers, even with the good position that they're in now in the Western Conference, pulling back is not really an option. And I totally agree with you guys. This goes back to Cleveland. It's not fun to watch him carry teams to this extent, because what's on my mind the entire time is like, somehow he got into a wrestling match with time and is winning, but time comes for us all. And I don't want to speed that up by him piling on these minutes right now. And Jordan, you should say what we were talking about earlier about it not being the most fun to watch Anthony Davis. And I think that also plays into like worrying for LeBron, but I want them to hear that, because it was such a good point.
Yeah, so we were talking about, what players are a joy to watch. And someone was talking about AD, and I completely disagreed, because in this household, we call him the glass man. And so my anxiety is on 1,000 watching Anthony Davis play basketball, because every time he hits the floor, you're like, oh God, is it his pinky toe? Is it his finger? Like, what has him on the ground for 20 minutes?
Are you doing the soft thing? Are you calling Anthony Davis
I'm not.
soft?
I didn't use those words. I said
I mean,
we have high anxiety
you went
when
soft
he plays.
adjacent.
go ask your dad. Is he calling him soft?
I think I heard
will
somebody
say
yelling soft from the back.
In the background.
I think it's a lot like Embiid, where you can appreciate him fully and say, this is amazing, but you kind of always have in the back of your mind, and there is a high anxiety with watching him. I mean, we saw that tonight, unfortunately. His knee went backwards, and with another player, you're like, this seems serious. I hope that he works it out. With Embiid, you're like, no, this is actually serious. And that's the same as with Anthony Davis. With both of them, it's the same. Like, their teams absolutely need them. And so that's also why it's like it's a high anxiety to watch him. So I think what Jordan's saying is accurate. And I don't think soft is a bad thing. I think we should just establish that. It's a good trait. It's a good trait to have, and I will stand by that forever.
Well, I mean, look, I agree with you, except I don't think what Jordan was implying with the soft adjacent assessment of Anthony Davis was like that he was in touch with either his feminine side or that that he allows himself to be vulnerable publicly or anything. That's not what she was
We
referring
support you,
to.
AD.
Yeah, we support that if that's the case.
I will say though, every time he falls, and he falls a lot,
All the time.
it's like it's a contract incentive. Like if he falls a certain amount of times, he gets a bonus or something. And props to Clutch if they put that in.
Yeah, you clinch every time that happens. And that happens 50 times a game. So that's why I'm totally okay that he's not playing. Just sit this out. Let's hope that we can make it to the playoffs. You'll carry us through there. But I have those same feelings with LeBron a little bit. I'm like, okay, let's just, if it gets a little dicey, I'm like, all right, just sit out. It's okay. We can lose this one, not by a lot. Just sit out so that you're safe. I just want everyone safe. That's
same. It's this season is way different too. I mean, they said it before All-Star. They are tired. That extends to their bodies. Like I hope we're all in this group still taking like the daily walk we're supposed to be taking. I just got a dog. That's the only reason I'm doing it is because we literally have to go outside. But like if I'm too tired to take a walk, I can't imagine playing that much every night. And it is kind of a contrast with LeBron. I mean, now it's in our head. He's older. This won't last forever. He's playing so many minutes. He's having to carry this team. But throughout his career, I've never had the same fear. When he goes down, I'm like, he's going to get up. When AD goes down, I don't know that for sure. And oftentimes it's not true.
Man, LeBron now, when you see him start having to carry a team at this age and like this particular period, because without AD and, even to a lesser degree, Gasol and tonight Caruso, because he got hurt during the game.
Oh, that was brutal.
Oh,
that was
God.
horrible.
Oh, like it starts making me feel old. Like I start becoming aware of how old LeBron is, which makes me feel older. Like I start becoming aware of my own body aches and stuff like that. Like Wes Matthews took a charge in this game that he looked every bit of like 35 or 36 when he got up. Like it was like that should have been worth 2 offensive fouls from that guy. He looked just torn up.
And I think they said on the broadcast, they were saying when LeBron was on the free throw line that Miles Turner went to LeBron's camp for 4 years straight while he was in high school. And then I just started looking at LeBron like sideways. I'm like, all right, you've been at this for a while.
He's playing with Gen Zers. Like, he's
cross-generation basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's played so long that I have to remind people all the time, like millennials are not the young people anymore. Not that, millennials are old people, but like when people talk about, the young people coming out of college and joining the workforce, those are not millennials. It's LeBron
true.
has played across an entire generation of human beings. Like that's crazy. And he's still arguably the best player in basketball.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Yeah. Hey, you asked the question, who do I support? This is why he's my answer.
How common do you think that is though? Because I was thinking about this as, you said on the show that that's sort of a very millennial way of looking at the NBA, as you sort of follow players more than you follow teams. And I think that's really common across the league. I'm a little older, but like that's how I do it because I didn't grow up with the NBA. The first time I ever started caring about the NBA was when I moved out here and was working for ESPN the magazine, and somebody was paying me to care about it. And now I really like it. We didn't have the NBA in St. Louis.
Well, it's the same with me. Kentucky and Indiana is where home is. So that's
but those are at least both
me.
Like those are at least like basketball country though.
Yes, absolutely basketball. I was obsessed with college basketball, and that's actually why I switched over to the NBA and switched over I still love college basketball, but I've told Jordan this story before. Had a boyfriend in high school, watched Kevin Durant because he was a huge Texas fan, loved Kevin Durant, was like, I have to keep watching him, dumped the boyfriend, kept Kevin Durant, and that's how I became an NBA fan. So I am with you. It's similar origins.
Did the relationship end over Durant, or like was just a coincidence?
No, it was just that one of them was a joy to watch, and I guess not literally be around, and then the other one just kind of was the complete opposite. So one of them felt good, and then the other one was
turned out to be more Greg Oden than Durant.
Some of us are just tall and imperfect, I guess. What do you think though? What I think is interesting about that though is just how do you think that impacts the way we kind of talk about the league, the way people take it in? There's this constant battle of, are enough people watching it, and all these things but like, do you find that to be like sort of a more common way, at least in basketball, that people follow it and root for it, where they're really attached to players more than they are teams?
Well, I'm interested to hear. I want to hear what Jordan thinks about this because she did grow up a Lakers fan. So she was, she is, I guess, one of the, I wouldn't say exceptions. I don't think it's like the majority or anything, but I think definitely what you're saying, it is more common. I don't know what this says about our generation. I don't know if this is like an overarching theme that people do say like, hey, we're less loyal to certain workplaces now. And that's opposite than how it was. Yeah. So I think it does align. Yeah, exactly. And it's more about supporting people who we want to support. So, but I don't know, Jordan, what do you think? Because you did grow up with a team.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was born a Lakers fan, and it was more about the team rivalry, especially I'm from Sacramento. So being a Lakers fan,
I don't blame you for your choice.
Territory. I know we're winners over here. On Shirlene.
Yes, like when your aunt chooses the Celtics over the Lakers from San Diego, you're like, When you choose the Lakers over the Kings from Sacramento, everybody's like, well, that's just smart.
Yeah, well, that just makes sense, right? But it was still, my grandparents lived in Sacramento and they were Kings fans, so it was more of a team versus team rivalry growing up. And then of course, we were Kobe fans. Like that's who we were. We loved Kobe. So I had to think about that a couple times. If Kobe were to ever leave the Lakers, I think I would follow Kobe. Like I think I would have followed Kobe because I was that big of a fan, but I just happened to have my favorite player already on my team. So that I can't relate.
Okay, well, I mean, you actually almost had two opportunities to test that with Kobe because he came close to leaving in 2004, and then he famously demanded a trade in 2007, and there was a lot of tension hanging over. Brian and I covered that team. There's a lot of tension hanging over that team until eventually Andrew Bynum started playing really well, and then they made the Gasol trade and all that stuff. But like, were you mentally preparing yourself at all for like the idea of, well, I'm traveling with Kobe wherever he's going. That's my guy.
Well, I'm going to show my age a little bit here, but I was in seventh grade.
You're the youngest one here.
I know. That's what I say. I was in seventh grade.
For a second, I thought you were going to reveal like I am actually far older than I look. I am 63.
I just use a lot of wrinkle cream. I've been into skincare forever.
Look, you guys know black don't crack. So I could be any. I could be any age. I could be any age.
Look,
some people think I'm in high school. Some people think I'm older. You never know.
Jordan went to high school with Eisenhower. Nobody knows that.
I was there when Kareem arrived. I was there when Magic arrived. So
She
I
actually switched with Aunt Shirlene and then switched back.
But I put in my time, damn it.
All right, so now go ahead and make me angry. When were you in 7th grade?
Yeah, I was in 7th grade in 2007. So
Oh,
I know. So yeah, that was a big moment. We kind of sat around the dinner table and was like,
so
all
when
right.
did somebody tell you this happened with Kobe? Well, before you were able to keep up.
I was keeping up,
Okay.
I played basketball since I was 5. So I've loved basketball and watched it my whole life and with my brother and with my dad. So when that time came, it was a moment. I was going to make a life decision in 7th grade, but I knew my loyalty was with Kobe, and thankfully he stayed and my loyalty could stay with the Lakers. But it would have been, I don't know, it would have been a toss-up. I think that would have been the only time that maybe my fandom would have been tested.
You know what's interesting to me, and people wrote about this and talked about it, but I always wish it had been dug into a little deeper, is that when LeBron came to the Lakers, it was kind of a jarring identity switch for a lot of people because they've been pitted against each other their entire careers. So then you're saying this, he's kind of like anti what the Lakers, I don't want to say stood for, but like supported. And I think it really took Kobe saying, no, this is a wonderful thing and we should, welcome him for a lot of people to come around. I don't think all Lakers fans have came around, but it does help. The title does help.
Well, Kobe is the ultimate example of the fan whose first loyalty is to the player and not the team. Andy and I have covered the Lakers for a long time now and can absolutely 100% say, like, there's overlap in the Venn diagram, but there's a circle of Kobe fans and there was a circle of Laker fans, and they did not necessarily overlap. And I'm talking about people in LA that were still more loyal to Kobe than they were to the franchise.
Yeah, so actually, like what Jordan is saying, although you probably will always have a spot in your heart for the Lakers and would have, even if Kobe had left, like what you're saying is that Kobe was actually a big driver of the, support players rather than teams, but he just happened to be on the same team his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that a lot, that reaction from Laker.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Bedtime alarm.
It's an adorable ring.
You got somewhere to be?
Thank you. No, it's my alarm.
I thought, was it your dad texting that they won?
No, but he's gonna be so happy.
But there was that perceived rivalry that, that never really manifested between Kobe and LeBron because we were supposed to get these showdowns in the playoffs that ultimately never ended up happening for a variety of different reasons. But like there were a lot of Laker fans, like you were saying, Haley, like pretty hostile at the idea and kind of defensive at the idea of LeBron coming over and like the idea that would somehow threaten Kobe's legacy with the organization, which we kept trying to tell fans, like LeBron may end up going down as the better player of all time, like in these fake rankings that don't really matter, but like the consensus, he will never displace Kobe in the ranking of great Lakers. Like we were telling me, like it's impossible. Like he would have to reel off like 7 titles in a row to even be in that conversation. Like Kobe has way too much institutional gravity, but also too, I think what really, and it's awful that these are the circumstances, what really helped LeBron with that fan base was just the way he shepherded everything through after Kobe's death. I mean, like I think that was really a moment for LeBron when he really became connected to the organization, because that first season he was very outwardly disconnected from the Lakers, and it was palpable, and it was something that fans noticed and they didn't like, and LeBron really took on that responsibility after Kobe's death of moving things forward under terrible circumstances. And again, it's horrible that that's what it was, but I think that was really in a lot of ways the moment that he arrived for Laker fans.
Yeah, and I'm in that. I was definitely a part of that because I am on record saying that I don't love LeBron James, but I definitely had like this come to Jesus moment. Like after Kobe's passing, it was like, it's not worth it. Like you are taking on this leadership role. I think he just handled that so well. And I mean, he's a great person off the court. The issue with LeBron James off the court, but I was definitely that fan to say, you know what, you're a part of the Lakers family now. Like we're all going through this together. That was a horrible, horrible thing. So yeah, I was in that group.
Well, I'm glad you came around.
Yeah, I also
think
we got a wing.
It's as simple as like the first year it was bad. The second year it was good. So the Lakers, I think Lakers fans obviously care about winning and have what's the right polite way to say this so Jordan doesn't leave our show. Feel a little bit of like
the Lakers fans
we
have
are
an
entitled to win. We are
extraordinary sense of
used to
entitlement.
winning. We should always be in the running, which is a totally fair thing. I think a lot of fan bases feel we should always be in the running because we've proven that we can be competent in multiple areas to make that happen. So I also think the first year was not great with LeBron winning people over because it was concerning and everyone was like, wait, is this our future? How are they ever gonna play together? These guys are too young. Lonzo Ball's not panning out like we thought he was. So I think it was a mix of a couple
in that
of
sense,
things.
LeBron actually agreed with the fans because it was pretty obvious he wanted those guys.
Ship 'em out.
He was like, get him out, yeah.
that was the one thing they all agreed on was like, no, we want Anthony Davis just as much as you do.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, are you at all offended by the expression that Haley was sort of dancing around of like deep and irritating sense of entitlement? When it comes to
I did not say irritating. Do not start something on this.
I said
No,
deep,
I'm
but not
very-
irritating.
On this happy hour.
I'm not even scared to admit it. Like we are a winning program. We have to win. And that's our bar. That's our standard. That's what I like to be surrounded by. We're winners. So if you're not doing that, then we have a problem. And if it's not looking like we're going to have a winning season, I'm upset. So I'm not even ashamed of that.
It was coming off the back of a lot of bad seasons too, which is also important context.
We don't have
People,
to talk about those, Haley.
fans were impatient. Yeah,
We don't have to bring those up.
Let's not bring those up anymore.
Trust me, Andy and I did post-game shows for like that entire stretch of time.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
awful.
Yeah.
And they were like, why can't you guys say more nice things about the team? And we're like, well, how come you can't win more than 18 times a year? It's like,
Yeah,
those are related.
we used to hear that the organization was not happy with our post game show. We're like, you guys are like 14 and 48. Like there's kind of no way for us to spin this
The
thing.
best we can here.
Like, wait, what do you want? Like, I
Can't bleed a rock. We don't often get to do breaking news, but and I say this, first of all, I guess if you are a person with children nearby, you might want to have them turn away from the screen because Kyle Kuzma tonight after the game, the Lakers come up with a really good, is your dad is okay to say this aloud, 105-100 win, missing half their roster, as we mentioned before. After the game, Kuz, who was great in the fourth quarter, I don't remember exactly how many points, but I think he had like 15 in the fourth. It was some huge number. Big bucket from LeBron, had this post-game quote. I'm not even sure this is quote of the year. This might be quote of the decade.
Oh my God. I am so happy right now.
Well, I'll read this aloud for people. This from, as reported by
no.
Dan Wojcicki of the LA Times, got a blue check mark and everything, and other people were putting this out. Kyle Kuzma after the game, I was pretty much eye-fucking him to pass me the ball when asked about the swing pass LeBron threw to him in the corner for the fourth quarter. That's a first, right?
Basketball after dark. This is why West Coast games. I mean, Kuzma's like, I never want to leave because I need to stay in this area where I can say these things.
I love it. I'm here for it.
I fucking in the really ever, but certainly in the context of a basketball game. That is the quote of the
definitely
year.
a term, but usually meant in a more romantic way.
I mean, he may have just really wanted the ball, Haley.
Yeah, that's what it's
might have
looking
been
like.
romantic from his perspective. But you know what though? Like that's also how you know that Kuz now in his third season with LeBron is just feeling more comfortable. That like you can say something like that. That was something that we used to, write about or talk about with, covering those Kobe teams was like the guys that generally did best with Kobe were the ones that just were with him the longest. And like you would learn that, you would miss him on an open play. And, in Kobe's mind, he was always open. You should always get him the ball. And he would motherfuck you. And then the sun would come up the next day. And like it would be fine. And then after a while, you stop fearing any type of repercussions or whatever.
And you know what, though? I think, Andy, it's more to do with the fact that these guys are really leaning into the comfort of Zoom chats. Like, there is no way that he says that the same way, that I fucking LeBron. If we're all standing around his locker and they're like live TV cameras there, it does not happen. Like, we talk about like going back to normal. This is going to be the hardest thing that players have to adjust to. Going back to normal is not being able to say whatever the hell they want in these Zoom chats. The cursing level has gone way up over the last year.
Eating fried chicken during the Zoom channel with Giannis. When Giannis heard that he was on LeBron's All-Star game, just like grubbing on chicken mid-sentence, mid-press conference, and he's not going to be able to do that anymore. And that makes me kind of sad.
These guys are all living their best lives.
I know.
Don't think the access is going to be the same ever again. So
I don't think so either.
Perhaps that some of that comfort will stay, which if we get more quotes like this,
worth it.
Well, not only that, it means I can either leave the game right after and like watch the Zoom chat on my way home, or I can continue doing this from my living room. There's some things about it that I kind of like, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not the worst thing in the world.
No,
I want to ask you
it at all.
I want to ask you guys this, because this came up in one of the shows that you guys were doing, that when you were talking about Lloyd Pierce, and even beyond, like Andy and I think both keep up, obviously with the NBA and stuff, but you guys made a really interesting point about minority representation in the WNBA.
Yeah.
Specifically with Black women coaches and how few there are. And there are two things about this that struck me. The first one is, I think the number is 2, correct? Or is it 1? It's 1. It's 1.
That shocked me.
I was shocked by that. And here's the part that it made me a little bit both shocked and a little bit ashamed. It hadn't occurred to me to think about it. And I thought a lot about naturally how many women coaches there are in the WNBA, but I hadn't thought about how many Black women there were. So thank you, first of all, for just saying it aloud. So now, the awareness is there, but how common do you think that is? And how big of a problem do you think that is, that people don't look at Black women in the WNBA as head coaching candidates and think about it and talk about it with the same amount of consistency that we do with male Black coaches, with the NBA,
or just white women,
or true.
I think it's so interesting because both of those, why it's such a big problem is because it doesn't reflect the leagues.
Mm-hmm.
The WNBA is, I think the numbers came out somewhere last year where it's almost 80% Black women. So you don't have that representation on the coaching side. And it's frustrating. The players are even frustrated by it. I think that's the biggest thing. And for, Dallas to make Vicki Johnson the lone Black woman, and there's only 2 Black men in James Wade and Derek Fisher. It's a problem, especially in the wake of, the WNBA getting all this press of how woke the league is.
That's what really surprised me about it.
Yeah. So it's still an issue, and it still takes someone like Vicki Johnson, like I was talking about on the podcast, who was a 16-year veteran in the league and served 9 seasons as an assistant coach for, she was a part of the ACES organization last. And it took her that much credibility to even really get a look. So it's just bringing it up and bringing those numbers forward, making people more aware. Mm-hmm. And it's a problem in the league specifically because, the New York Liberty had a first-year coach. he was only in the WNBA. I think I need to fact check this, but only for about 3 years. This was his first coaching job, and he got a head coaching job at the Liberty. And so that's where the players are saying, you know, there are so many assistant coaches that are Black women that have either played in the league or have been a part of this league for over 10 years. And why aren't they even in that conversation? So you have coaches like the Minnesota head coach, which her name is escaping me right now, but she made a declaration, like, I'm only hiring women on my coaching staff. Like, I'm not even going to hire men. I want more women in this league. So I'm going, as a head coach and a GM of the Lynx, I'm going to make that declaration. And I feel like more people have to do that, or the league itself has to kind of just hold each other to a higher standard, really.
It's Cheryl Reeve. I just
Cheryl Reeve.
And to add to what Jordan's saying, I hope that in all leagues, especially after this summer, we start to separate. The players are really the root of this progressive image, and corporations, leagues are owned by millionaires, billionaires. So there's definitely a divide. And then also the demographics of the people who are hiring these coaches. That's where a lot of it stems. And also, you know, especially with Black female coaches, it's the same as in a lot of other careers, as in life. Intersectionality often prevents them from getting a chance before men do, before white women do. So, you know, they're often the last given a chance. And so that's why I think that number especially is so low. But it has so much more to do with the demographics of people who are in charge. It's the same with the NBA and with college sports. I was just talking about this the other day. Until those athletic directors in college, until the GMs and presidents, until the owners of professional leagues themselves have more diversity, it's not a diverse league and it's not a progressive league.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to just the importance of this being important to the people doing the hiring. And, like, you know, not just important, like, I think if you asked most of the people running these leagues, you know, owning these teams, like, would they like to see more representation, like, as a theoretical? I think their answer would be yes. And I actually believe them that as a theoretical, they would like to see it, because there's no reason necessarily that they wouldn't. But you have to be willing to go outside whatever your own perceived comfort zone is to actually make it happen. Like, you actually have to be, you have to be invested enough to be proactive. And I mean, that's where I think potentially, at least, Renee Montgomery owning the dream becomes really important, because this is something that I think is important to her. Like, you know, and you know, she, you know, that whole team, what we saw with what happened with Kelly Loeffler, and I cannot thank them enough for that. But
yeah,
like, it seems to me like she could be a part of that. And it's interesting, because I really do think that a lot of people involved with these leagues would like to see that happen. Like, I know that systemic racism plays a role in this, but I don't know how much active intentional racism is necessarily a hindrance. But unless you're looking to be a part of the solution and in some way take whatever would be considered a perceived risk, then even if, you know, outward racism isn't a problem for you, you're not actually solving it. You're just wanting to see it solved on somebody else's time.
Yeah, and there so much of this in the NBA and WNBA is perceived bias that you have no idea that you have. That's something that we all need to address. And in your mind, someone who you think is more qualified, you have to ask, why do you think that? And especially in the WNBA, I think it's also shocking, because in the NBA, we've seen so much success that player coaches have had. So that's like the Brad Stevens and a lot of coaches who have also played before. And that's kind of like a better fit, I think, now with these millennial players and younger players, is, can you relate to me? Are we on the same level, instead of being this like dominant, screaming figure. And so it is surprising that they don't give players who are former players more of an opportunity in that aspect as well. And I think the biggest thing that they need to realize is that this is not for just diversity. This is because you need to face the fact that this is what's best for your team.
Yeah.
This is like will give you the
the
winning
league.
advantage. Absolutely. So it's not a surface level like face. We're a diverse league. It shouldn't be for that.
It's not about checking boxes. It's about actually looking for the best candidates, like actually making your team better. Like, it's not just like diversity in terms of race. It's actually diversity in finding the best, expertise, best opinions, best perspectives. Like there's a lot more that comes with diversity than just like exterior, again, checking of boxes. Like that's actually the value of it.
Yeah.
How quickly do you think it can change? Just because, like I said, like for me, it was like, and there, like
really
Haley, you mentioned the amount of just female coaches, period, which is lower than I thought it was. Just looking it up, how much of it is talking about it and just saying these things out loud? Because, like I said, I was a little ashamed of myself for not even knowing that was a number.
Yeah, I think, you talk about the Renee Montgomerys and even Tamika Catchings, going into the Fevers higher up and going back into the organization after she's done playing. I would guess that a lot more players are going to do that because they are invested in this league. Like the women that are there, the 144 players that make roster spots, like they are invested in making the WNBA better and they want it to be better. So by doing that, it's speaking up and, not only for the country, but for their league. And we saw that, the WNBA players have been doing that since the beginning. They have always been outspoken and it's not just a 2020 thing. So I think just as a league, they're going to continue to do that. And this is a part of that. You have players going on the record saying, like, this needs to change. We want to see more women that look like us in these head coaching spots, in these GM spots, in ownership. And Renee Montgomery was like, okay, I do want to see that. I'm going to be that person. And I think more people are going to follow her lead.
Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
We had something come up earlier today that was kind of amazing in terms of just a Twitter exchange that we had, where a concept, quite frankly, that I have never thought of became something that I think we all should, at least as a thought exercise. Andy, can you break this down a little bit? Because you were central to this.
Yeah, I was talking with Sam Esfandiari, part of the whole Blue Wire family, and a couple other people on Twitter. And I don't remember how it came up, but one of them proposed the idea of they're Giants fans, San Francisco Giants fans, if they could trade one of their championships for superstar player X, would they do that? And we started.
In this case, it was Fernando Tatis Jr. They would trade the entire 2012 title team for Fernando Tatis Jr.
So we started thinking about like, okay, what if teams could actually trade their championships to another team, and that team, whoever receives it, it becomes a legitimate championship for them. They can put up that banner. It counts for real. And you can trade that for a superstar. Like, for example, if you're the Lakers and you've got 17 banners, like you've got a lot of championships to play with, and you are in the most win now mode. Like, you want to capitalize on LeBron and Anthony Davis. I would trade one of these titles to get like Ja Morant, someone like bring in Damian Lillard. I mean, you got 17, 16.
But you got to decide. Like, would you do 2000? Like, I would trade 2009 for Ja Morant because like it was over Orlando. That one didn't like. But are you trading 2010 for Ja Morant?
That's a tough one
over the Celtics.
Jordan, you go first because I don't have the team perspective. I just have
I don't want to go.
All right, I'll say it. No disrespect to anyone who's involved in this conversation. But but this drives me insane. This section of NBA fandom, I'm like, what? I remember when there was the conversation about Kawhi, and after the Raptors won, people were like, in that free agency period where they weren't sure if he was going to stay, people were like, well, was it even worth it? Because now he's leading and da-da-da. The goal of this entire thing is to win championships. Of course it was worth it. That was a magical time for Raptors fans. They will love that forever. And even a team who's not the Raptors, who has a ton of championships, who's been there before, and this is not entirely unique for them, that's what you're supposed to accomplish. This is the goal.
Right.
The entire
but when
goal.
you've accomplished it that many times,
so
you
but
can
then
maybe
what's the
flip
point?
one of those titles for a super.
The point
to
is
get
just
more.
to win another one.
I'm just trying.
You
to
already gave up one that you won, and it's not even guaranteed. It blows my mind that was even a suggestion.
You got to give a little to get a little, Haley. I mean, like, this is the way it works.
I feel
crazy.
like that's just a lot of pressure on that player that you bring in, because they're like, if they don't give you that title or they don't, hold up to that promise, you're like, we gave up a championship trophy for you. Always held over their head.
There was the same pressure, though, with like giving up Lonzo and Ingram and Josh
Right,
Hart and all those picks for Anthony Davis. Like, what if they didn't win at all with Anthony Davis? Like, people would be looking
still
throw it all
have
away.
However many championships.
But look, you could look. I think the Minnesota titles, like the Minneapolis Lakers titles, like those are the equivalent, I think, of either like high second rounders or like all the 27th picks that the Thunder currently have from around the league. Like, you could package a bunch of those, like even just this year for PJ Tucker, and like you're not going to miss those. Like, you're not going to miss that. You are
giving away what then you brag about later. You're like, we've always been this. We have been winning since the start. That is, you're building.
Nobody cares about the Mikan years. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I was gonna say it should be like a game.
Jordan has already mentally traded everything.
Yeah, Jordan's like, okay, I'm in.
I mean, okay.
Here's her wheel. You can see the wheels spinning. Like, could we get John Morant?
I already have an idea. It should be like a survey. You should just survey Lakers fans, and if the year that they get wrong of the championship that we have, then that's the one we give up. It's like no one even remembers it anyway. Let's give that one up for Ja. I like that. I like that.
Okay, like, here's an example. If you're let's say you're Sam Presti with the Thunder, they have that one championship from, I think it's like 78 or 79 with the Sonics. I trade that thing in a heartbeat. Like, everyone in Seattle hates us anyway.
That's your only one.
But
they're near in the
fans
group.
aren't excited about it. Like, they don't care. But
I think that it's still important for a franchise to say we've won one. The difference between 1 and 2 is far less than 0 and 1, because there's a group of teams that have never won.
Okay.
Well, what if you're the argument for the Lakers? And Jordan's like, yes, you're making my argument for me.
You're the Knicks.
All the Minneapolis ones out the door. Here we go.
You have two. The most recent one, I think, is 73. That organization is so damn thirsty to win, to get relevant again. Like, if you think Tibbs is going to wait around for that young group to develop, like they traded for Derrick Rose, like you already can see the wheels turning. He's absolutely trading like the 73 title to bring in a superstar to the Knicks. And he should. I would do that. Like, the fan base, nobody from the fan base even remembers it. Like, you have to
but
be
they
of a
bring it up
age.
all the time as proof that one time they were good.
Then you take that away, and then I don't know if you should trust the Knicks for, like, trades or bargaining, especially when there's a trophy involved. That gets a little dicey.
What would you have to get in return for 2010, Jordan? 2010 was a good one.
That was a good one.
Kobe beating the Celtics.
That feels
a
kind
revenge.
of untouchable.
Yeah, that's. I don't know.
I'm not I don't know if you can put a package together where you can move that one.
I don't think so. That's Kobe's last one. Like, that's.
That one feels untouchable.
It does.
That one feels totally untouchable. But, like, okay, your grandma, like some of those 60s championships. Like, do you think she'd surrender one in order to like get Boston the help that because they're, they've been scuffling. Like if they could get like a young, an A-list superstar, like an all NBA player. I mean, like who cares?
I heard
about
she's
1961.
She's not all
but
there
Boston
with Brad Stevens.
and LA bring those up all the time. Like the end count is very important as well. When you're matching up legacies.
If we called Aunt Shirlene right this second, that's what she would bring up.
Please don't wait.
She'd be like, "Why did you?"
She is awake. No, she is awake. She is a night owl. You know, she watched that Lakers game, waiting by the phone to call us if they lost.
Okay, do you agree?
Taking notes.
Do you agree with me that the Clippers would trade like a low first round pick for just one of the Lakers' final appearances? Like they don't even have to take a championship, but like the just 84 loss in the
of finals. The banner. Just if you just cut out like a corner of our banner, they would trade something just to claim anything.
A title, yes. But giving one away, again, I will say it is literally the entire point of this entire thing.
You're investing in more. You're investing in more championships. The Lakers are in win now mode.
Yeah, it sounds like stocks. I'm like, this has gotten too GameStop-y for me. Let's back. This is the real NBA Top Shot.
It's very Bitcoin of us.
Where are you guys on Top Shot? Because I'm past the point where I'm like, I don't know what that is. Like, I get it. Like, I understand like digital stuff and blockchain and all that. But like, do you still think that in a year or 2 years or 3 years, people will be spending $26,000 on rookie Ja Morant highlights?
I don't know, but I'm a curious person. So I'm following it from afar. I'm like signed up on these crypto message boards. I mean, that's just very me. And what we're hoping is very Spinsters is like, let's lurk. And then tell a story based on what we know. So at this point, I have no idea, but it is very interesting and very like stock bro-y.
For people who don't know, you guys, it's not just a regular podcast too. Like go back and listen to it. They did great. You guys did a great episode on Magic Johnson and what it really was like when he returned to the league after his HIV diagnosis. So like, there's reported out stuff. There's also like like Andy and I do it, just sort of two idiots talking about basketball. Do it better.
You do the non-idiotic version.
Right? You do it in a non-idiot form. But this would be 3 or 4 years from now a great look back story. I don't. That's the part that I don't get is like, really, we're going to be super excited about owning this stuff, like talking to our friends at the bar about like, check out my highlight that I have custody over, like,
right? Because you could just talk about the highlight. That's what I don't get, and I've kind of checked out because I'm like, we can just talk about and reminisce. Why is there money involved in the memories?
Do either of you know anybody who's actually purchased something Top Shop?
Who isn't
I've
to
been
NBA
connected
media?
with a couple people and I've talked to them. And I think this actually gets into something very philosophical and also something that is psychological because it strikes a lot of people and takes their interest. But there is this phenomenon with crypto that has obviously expanded now into the NBA with Top Shot, where people have noticed that they can create value out of nothing. And that is essentially what this is. And that is a hobby for them and also a way that they see that they can make money. So for me, that's pretty frustrating because, again, I'm with Jordan. I'm like, I can just pull it up on YouTube at the bar. But yeah. I think that that's really the root of it is there's an ability to create worth out of something that is
it's fat.
Not even you're able to hold. So
yeah, it's just
which
weird.
Is true of a lot of things. I mean, we give value to all sorts of things that don't necessarily have it unless we decide. But this to me is a strange one, and I am completely fascinated. I'm not buying any of it, but I'm like literally buying any of it. But I'm completely fascinated by it. So before we let you guys go, for people who might have missed it earlier, the single greatest moment in media history happened, at least in the 21st century, happened earlier as Kyle Kuzma explained how he got the ball tonight from LeBron James. I actually like people have started posting the clip too.
Oh yes.
Masculine to you there.
Yeah, I mean, we were looking at each other the entire possession. I was pretty much eye fucking the basketball. He found me and made shot.
That was a pretty straight face, which is kind of wild.
Well, sort of, but then like watch his expression afterwards, like
And he found me and made shot.
I'm gonna rub my neck.
To the Dan Wiki.
Let's go to Dan Wiki.
My goodness.
You just like this is one of those times where you're in PR going, oh my god, did he just do that? And I think even he just realized what he did. Like afterwards, that little neck rub. Like I think I just said I fucking impressed him. It's a great.
Did I say that out loud?
He should not be fined. He should not be fined.
No, he should have money
I can't imagine that they would find some.
No, he should have more
Adam
money
Silver
put
doesn't
in
even
his
know what that
account.
means.
More money. Direct deposit hits
Yes,
But it was
because he says that.
like that should be his early stimmy. Like just that.
They should actually. The
government
beginning of
thinks
it could be set to music. He was talking about how we were looking at each other all the way down. It was very like sliding doors kind of rom-com to it.
Yeah, so maybe it was romantic.
Yeah, you were right,
I'm all
Haley.
about it. I'm all about it.
All right, so explain to us, give us like how often should we be expecting Spinsters episodes? When does the next one happen? What can people do other than, as we say, subscribe to Spinsters wherever podcasts are found?
We drop episodes every Tuesday. This coming Tuesday, we have something we are so excited about. We have our first contributor, and it's really just, I can't wait to share it. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at SpinstersBW. And yeah, anything else, Jordan? You want to do the whole follow us wherever you get your podcast?
Yes. You can subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Stitchers, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Is there a
Beautiful.
hint that you can drop about this contributor?
I will just say, if you like dunking, you will like this story.
Yes.
And who doesn't like
It's Andy. You're having Andy on.
Spoiler.
this whole thing
Wow.
has been a ploy to get you guys to come on the show.
You could have just asked. Jordan Ligons
Very
and
flattered.
Haley O'Shaughnessy. It is a great, the world has a lot of podcasts that are coming online. This is one that is absolutely worth listening to and worth subscribing to. It's really good. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Thank you for having us.
Next week, no shows. We're going on spring break. Woo! We could use a little break. Tired.
You want to sing your frogs?
Whistles and tequila and stuff. All right, we'll sip. Everybody have a good. That was awkward. Everybody have a good weekend. We'll talk to you
Thank you,
soon.
Nederland.